everyone. This is Amanda Vink, speaking for Kaledena Press. I'm so excited to introduce Alyssa Palombo, who is the author of a number of books that you should definitely check out. Her newest book is coming out on October 19th. It's called Heavy Metal Symphony. Pre-orders go up on September 21st. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it and chat with Alyssa. Alyssa, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. This is going to be so fun.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk about your awesome book.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to talk about it too.
Let's get right into it. I'm wondering, where did you get the idea for this book?
So it was kind of like I had two scraps of ideas that I originally thought were two different books, and then I realized they were the same book. So the first idea that I had was kind of just this like vague idea about this couple who were in a band together, and they were going through this process of recording an album, and just like things weren't great, and that was kind of all I had. And then I had this other. It was really just like an image, but it was like the whole band kind of like sitting on this couch in a TV studio doing an interview, and the woman was the lead singer, and she had joined her boyfriend's band, and she kind of felt like she had to justify why she was there. Like, am I just here because I'm like dating this guy, basically? And like I said, for a long time I thought they were basically two different books, and then one day I realized that they were the same story, and it all clicked from there.
Oh,
And so once I kind of put the two pieces together, I realized, who these characters were and what they were doing. And I once they clicked, I started writing pretty soon after that, because once that all clicked together, it just like all kept coming, and I just couldn't not write it. So,
oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
How long did it take you to merge those two ideas?
I don't remember. Like, I don't remember like when I came up with each of them. The first one, like I said, the idea about this couple that they were recording this album, I feel like I had that in my head for a while, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And then probably like a couple months before everything clicked together, I settled on the second one, and then they were just both kicking around in my brain for a little bit, and then like I said, they kind of snapped together, and then I was off.
That's awesome. How long did it take you to write the whole thing?
So the first draft I actually wrote really fast, because I was on deadline for another book, and I just couldn't stop writing this. So I started. It was 2014. It was September. I think like this time of year. I think like mid September. I started writing it. I wrote it through the rest of that month. I wrote it through October, and then November came, and November is NaNoWriMo, as some of you might know, National Novel Writing Month. And so I kind of said to myself, okay, I'm going to use this, like try to stay on NaNoWriMo pace, and like I have to finish this month. Like I can't spend any more time on it. So I did. I actually then ended up finishing the first draft by the end of November. So like 2.5 months for the first draft, give or take. And then in between other writing projects, I would come back and pick at it and do revisions. I kind of like never stopped working on it. It was always in the back of my mind. So yeah, I mean, it's been like 7 years since I first started writing it until now, when it's about to come out in the world. But I wasn't working on it constantly that whole time. It was like I said, in between other things.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious. Had you done the November the NaNoWriMo before, or was this the first time you did it?
No, because I was always either like in the middle of something, or when I was in college or something, and I just didn't have time. And then actually last year I did it for the first time, where I actually started a draft on November 1st. And I did win. I did end up with a full draft at the end of the month.
Awesome.
So that last year was the first time I tried it with like something brand new that I just started, and then finished it within the month. So I
Yeah.
might try it again this year, depending how other things go.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of writing in like one
Yeah.
short span.
Yes, sure is.
Yeah. Do you typically write a lot at a time, or was that like a stretch for you having to write that much?
So I don't write every day. I know that that's like advice that a lot of people hear is like, you have to write every day. No, you don't. I know people who do. Like, I know people who, when they're drafting, they have to write at least a little bit of it every day to kind of stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that works for you, that's fine. It doesn't work for me because what I found is that if I do that, when I go like, a stretch of several days in a row writing every day, I start to get a little like burned out and I start to get like, I can't see the project clearly anymore. Like I need a little bit of space. So then when I start to feel like that, that's when I know I need to take a day or two away from it and then come back. And then I'm always refreshed when I come back to it and kind of like ready to attack it again. And sometimes, if I've hit like little plot snags, just taking a couple of days to sort of let it percolate in the back of your mind, that really helps.
Yeah.
So Nano is like a little bit weird for me because it in some ways goes against my process, but I'll kind of build in, like, I know I need to take days off. So like I'll write more than the designated word count in like a few days so that it makes up for it basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you start with an overall like a plot structure or in writing in general, or do you are you a pantser?
I'm definitely a pantser. I saw somebody one time, I think on social media, use the term organized pantser, and I think that's probably the best way to describe it because when I start, I always know like the climax of the story. I know what it's building to, and then I usually know the ending. Not always, but usually. So I know what I'm writing towards.
That's
But
helpful.
pretty much, yeah. But pretty much everything else, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that. I like the feeling of discovering the draft as you write it. And some, I found that I sort of build things into the plot. Like I'll put something in and I don't really know why it's there, but then like later I come back to it or it becomes important or something. And, your brain is kind of making all these connections behind the scenes that you don't really always realize until later. So that's how I like to write. I have had to make outlines in the past. For my book, The Borgia Confessions, I had to write an outline before I had the very beginning of the draft. I wrote like as much as I possibly could without an outline, and then I was like, I can no longer do this without outlining. So for that one, I had to, because there was a lot of historical information I was working with. But my preference is to just figure it out as I go.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, besides for this novel, besides like putting the two storylines together, were there any surprises that kind of threw you off while you were writing?
So actually, that structure that you referenced was kind of the biggest surprise because I didn't set out to write it that way. What actually happened was when I started writing the first draft, I was in, kind of the present day storyline. And then I kept just like dumping all of this backstory. And then I realized, oh, wait, no, the backstory is actually half of the story. Like it's not just backstory, it's actually part of the story. So that was when I realized I had to go back and forth in time. And like, yeah, that wasn't clear to me when I started. And I also, at later points, I was kind of like, well, why don't I like unbraid this and just tell it in chronological order? And then I was like, no, that's the point is that you see where they are and then you see where they started, and it's vastly different. Like when we meet Ava and Killian in the present, and we go back and meet them like early on in their relationship, there's a lot of dissonance there, and like that's what I wanted that tension between the two storylines. And I think that that's a little bit of what propels the reader forward, is to find out, okay, how did we get here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I cheat that I've read it already, so I did feel that dissonance, and it's great. I would like to take just a second to tell people that you're free to ask questions as well. If you want to ask questions, just write them in the comments, and we'll shoot them to Alyssa.
Yeah.
But returning back to the story, I'm wondering, first of all, why did you choose to write a metal book, and why did you choose Buffalo, New York?
So I'll answer the second part of your question first. Like I said, when I started writing this, it was kind of very slapdash in the moment. Like, I just have to get this story down. And so I picked Buffalo just out of familiarity, because I'm like, where am I going to set this? Well, why not Buffalo? I know it, minimum of research, which sounds nice, especially when you're used to writing historical fiction. And then, as it went on, it really became part of the story. Like the city really became part of the story and part of who the characters are. But yeah, then, I mean, metal's my favorite musical genre. So that's, I think, just why I gravitated towards that for, what kind of bands they were, is I just picked what I liked. And there's not a lot of books about metal bands. Like there's books about pop stars or, rock stars or rappers or country music people. But I'm sure there are other books about metal bands out there, but I couldn't think of many. So I was like, okay, well, this is something a little bit different. And, part of it is just that as writers, there's definitely a little bit, I think, of self-indulgence involved in that we write about what we like. So that was really all there was to it for me.
That's awesome. I'm wondering what was your what was your first metal show? Like, who's your favorite metal band? Like,
So my first metal show, I'm pretty sure it was Korn at the Family Values tour at Darien Lake, and I was like 18 or 19 probably. And my friend and I actually went to see Evanescence because they were on the tour. But we stayed for all the bands. Korn was the headliner, and I was like, I liked them. I wasn't like super super into them, but I did like their music. They were amazing. Like they put on such a great show. So that was probably my first metal show. My favorite metal band is Nightwish, hands down. They're my favorite band of all time. And yeah, I started listening to them probably when I was a teenager, and I was like 15, 16, and really started getting into metal like in the first place.
yeah, that's awesome. Now, you are also a musician as well, right?
Yes.
So how is incorporating that in your like writing about music is such a personal, it's personal for you and it's like personal reading it as well. Like, how did it feel to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, other than writing, music is my other passion, both, as a musician and also, just as a music fan, basically. So it's something because I love it so much, I find it, I don't want to say easy to write about, but it's very easy to tap into the emotions of it and like what I want to say about it, if that makes sense. And it's actually maybe easy is not the right word, but it's kind of a joy to really meditate on the feelings that you get when you're listening to music, when you're performing it. In Ava's case, she's writing music. I don't really have that gift, unfortunately, but it's I still know what it's like to create something that you love very passionately, which she does with the song that she writes in the book. So, um, yeah, it's just really enjoyable for me to kind of meditate on that and try to translate that feeling you get when you're in the zone, either as a performer or as when you're at a concert and you're just like really into it. To try to translate that into writing it was just fun. It was just I just loved doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that comes across like super well. Like not only like your passion and love for music, but like the writing about it comes across really well too. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Are you a singer as well? Ava, the main character, is a singer.
Yes. So that was easy enough in that like I know, I've given recitals, I've been in rehearsals, I've never sung with the metal band, sadly. But I those experiences that she has of the practice and the rehearsal and giving a classical recital, those are all things that I've done. So a lot of that I was able to draw from personal experience. And in writing about singing and using your voice in that way, that was something I had experience with, and so that was fairly easy to talk about, even though she's performing in a different context than I have. But the technical aspects of it, I'm obviously very familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah. When did you first start like singing and doing music doing music?
So when I was in high school, I got really into choir. So that was, I took it as a class when I was in high school, and I loved it, but I didn't think I was that good of a singer. And then when I got to college, I also joined the choir, and then I went to Canisius College here in Buffalo, and you could take music lessons for like class credit. So I signed up for voice lessons right away, and that really was awesome. And that really helped me figure out what I was doing and, just even the basics like the right way to breathe and all of that stuff. Um, I actually remember really, really vividly one of my lessons, my first or second semester there, I was singing Another Suitcase in Another Hall from Evita by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I vividly remember I was standing right next to the piano and my voice teacher said, okay, try singing it how you imagine a classical singer would sing it. And I did, and it clicked. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh.
Singing kind of in like the classical style was like actually more what my voice was suited for, as it turned out. So that kind of started me on this whole path of, really focusing on the classical side of things.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. And that's like a good start of research for a lot of this book. Um,
Yeah.
did you have to do, like, I know there's a lot of like recording technical term, like not, I mean, it's certainly readable, but
Mhm.
did you have to do a lot of research to find out like how the music business, like the industry works?
So, really, my research for this is just like a lot of reading and watching interviews and documentaries with bands and like about the recording process, about, kind of like you say, the music industry a little bit, and just kind of like hearing the experience from the artist's point of view. So really, it was just a lot of that. And I'm sure there's mistakes in there, things I might have misunderstood. I mean, that always happens when you're researching something. Um, but yeah, it was really just like I said, lots of interviews and documentary type things, combing through all of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure also that people, I mean, even within the industry itself, people do things in different ways. So,
Right.
it's
Sure.
hard to get like a this is the standard kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
for any
Yeah.
industry. I think there's a lot of personal taste that goes into it.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, again, if you have any questions for Alyssa, viewers, you are welcome to ask. Just put it in the chat box, and we will answer the questions. Um, but then we will return back to questions that I have prepared. Um, I'm wondering if you could tell young writers anything, what would you tell them?
Oh, like read everything that you can possibly get your hands on. Read certainly in the genre that you want to write in. Um, read, I think, read things published recently, in the genre you want to write in. I think that's really key. But read in every genre. I mean, read thrillers, read historical fiction, read fantasy, read science fiction, like a little bit of everything. Because I think that no matter what genre you write in, you can always learn from other genres, right? Like, thrillers are excellent for pacing. Like, if pacing in your writing is something you struggle with, like that's a good genre to look to. Read good books, read bad books or books that you're like not loving, but take note of what it is that you don't like about them. Like, what are things about this particular book that's turning you off? And that could be a matter of craft, or it could be a matter of taste. Not every book is for every person. I think just reading as much as you can is really, really key.
I think that's great advice. I feel like you do learn even from things that aren't good. As long as you're open to it,
Hmm.
it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are some books that you would recommend?
Oh gosh, I mean, again, what people like to read is everybody's personal taste. But some of my favorites, well, my probably my favorite book of all time is The Rossetti Letter by Christy Phillips, which is a dual timeline set in, um, present-ish. I think at this point it's like 2004 or something. And then it's also set in Venice in the 17th century, and it goes back and forth. And in the present day, this woman, an academic, is trying to do research for her dissertation, and she goes to Venice. And the past is about the woman who she's researching, basically. And Venice is my favorite place in the world, and this book is so good. I just love it so much. Some other favorites: Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. It's like a fantasy, like a dark academia kind of thing about the secret societies at Yale University.
Ooh.
But her premise is that what if these secret societies all had a different kind of magic that they use? That book is like flawless. It's so good. Um, I also love The Diviners by Libba Bray is another favorite. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. If you like horror, actually with spooky season coming up, that's a really perfect one. It's very, it's, ooh, it's it has its moments. It's spooky. Um, I read some really good books recently this year. The final revival of by Johnny Walton is about this like fictional pop punk outfit from the 70s. Um, what else? I read a lot of YA too. Actually, The Diviners, which I mentioned, is YA. Never Saw You Coming by Erin Hahn just came out, and I had read an early copy of that. It's this book that deconstructs, kind of toxic purity culture. It's really really good. Um, yeah, I always do this. I always like draw a blank. And people ask like, "What are your favorite books?" I'm like, "Oh, there's so many."
I know it's a hard thing to like narrow down, especially, it depends what mood you're in too, because
Yeah,
sometimes I've had it
yeah,
times before where I've picked up a book and I was like, I'm not really feeling this. 2 months later, I pick it up and I'm like, this is the
yeah,
best book I've ever read.
yeah, yeah. I'm a big mood reader, so I'm definitely like that as well. I'll set something aside and just come back to it because I wasn't in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, that's wonderful to recognize that that happens. Well,
Yeah.
those were some great suggestions, and thank you for those.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to add about your upcoming book or your writing in general?
I don't know. I guess just about this book in particular about Heavy Metal Symphony. It's definitely one of my favorite things I've ever written. I love it so much. I'm so happy that it's going to be out in the world. So I hope everyone likes it.
We
Hope
love
everyone
it
reads it and I hope
too.
everyone likes it.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and it's such a pleasure to read your book and work together. So
Yeah. Likewise. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And I think I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll give maybe one more minute for any questions to filter through. Um, and then we'll let you get on with the rest of your evening. um, yeah. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so thank you once again. I'm so appreciated.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
And just a reminder for everyone that Heavy Metal Symphony is coming out on October 19th from Kaledena Press. Pre-order is going on sale September 21st, so be sure to stay tuned for more details. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alyssa.
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Bye.